Welcome to the Online Success Journey Podcast, your opportunity to discover and learn from entrepreneurs like yourself. This is not your typical podcast, but a place where you can get the real story and find out how real people encounter speed bumps and detours, but journey through to find success. Now here's your host for the Online Success Journey Podcast, Patience.
Hello everyone and welcome to Online Success Journey. This is episode 89. Are you ready to join the clan? Today we have Kevin Spiteri, the digital marketing expert, author, investor, and the founder of Menace Marketing. He has mentored hundreds of marketing professionals on developing and executing world-class digital marketing strategies. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, Patience, and hello to the clan. How are you all?
We are all excited to have you. I know the clan is anxious to hear your story, so let's get started with the basics. Can you tell my clan a little bit about your background, about what you did before you started your online business, or take us right up to the last job or business before you are online?
Of course, I'd be more than happy to. So I have quite an interesting, or to me it's interesting, or to a lot of people that hear about it tend to think it's quite an interesting journey. I grew up in quite a low socioeconomic suburb in Western Sydney, a little city called Campbelltown. And, it was quite a rough and developing place, being from a working class family, blue collar family. I guess I started off obviously having no exposure to business at all. It was, my father set an amazing example. He's a shop fitter and joiner, working unbelievably hard every single day at the same job. For years, and just earning enough to provide and to put a roof over our heads. My mum was quite well educated, but chose to look after myself and my three other siblings, and she was a stay-at-home mum, and something we're also very, very grateful for. And so over the years, I went to school, and we were very fortunate that our parents effectively gave up purchasing property to put us through a good education. We went through a selective school, and growing up, the foundation was, work hard, get a job, and that's all you need to worry about. And that was basically the only premise, was that our parents said, work your way from the ground up and get a job and work hard. So from the age of 14, I realized, or sort of a bit earlier than that, I realized that I wasn't able to afford a lot of the things that I really wanted, and the things that we wanted to do. So I started getting jobs. So I worked in a supermarket, and then I worked in a retail outlet. And at the same time, I also started my very first business, which was installing car stereos. So at the age of 14, I taught myself how to install a car stereo and use my sister's car as a guinea pig. And word of mouth started growing, and basically I was able to live quite a comfortable life, or in my late teens and even right up to almost my early 20s. I was able to live a really good life just installing car stereos and working in retail, and that allowed me to fund my life during that period. And then I didn't realize it at the time, but I was obviously learning a lot about marketing and entrepreneurship, although I had no idea. And I actually started my career, so my very first profession was actually as an engineer, a mechanical engineer. So I did a trade as a tool maker, and within about a year of effectively finishing my trade, the company that I was working for some reason, they must have thought I was either a terrible tool maker or I was really good at something else. They they saw something in me, I guess, and decided to give me an opportunity, or asked if I'd be interested in promoting the business and helping promote the business, to find trades or to find others, to find young people similar to myself at the time who were looking for skills or trying to choose their career. And so I started doing. So I basically was left to my own devices to create a trade show and start promoting the business. And that's inadvertently where my marketing career began. And very quickly, within about a year of that happening, I was promoted to a sales and marketing role. I then started studying business marketing, business management, then went on to start studying to do a marketing degree. And then, so my career grew exponentially over sort of the course of the next, 7 years after that. And I ended up leaving that company. So that company was a $5 million business when I started. And when I left, it was a $30 million business. I'd been through 2 major acquisitions and been involved in compiling tenders for, in excess of $250 million on major defense projects, major automotive projects. And so I learned a heck of a lot. And so this is basically by the age of 25, I'd gotten to that stage. And then at the ripe old age of 25, I was then appointed head of marketing for Australia for a Fortune 500 New York Stock Exchange listed company. The company was the world leader in motion and control technology, a $14 billion company globally. And at 25, I was heading up the Australian marketing department. And that was a real baptism of fire. I went from a privately owned business right through to a multinational corporation. Over the next 5 years that I was at that corporation, I guess I learned a lot about business. I learned a lot about politics, bureaucracy, all the things you would probably expect to learn in a corporation. And then I also quickly learnt that the corporate life wasn't for me. And unfortunately, businesses corporates or my experience in corporate, what I witnessed was that growth was being stifled. Bureaucracy would get in the way of progression. And for me, somebody who I guess is intrinsically motivated, I'm a very intrinsically motivated person, I quickly realized that this wasn't for me, and I had to work out what my transition was going to be. And at the time, one of the traditional marketing agencies that we were working with, I had come to know the owner and the director of this company quite well. We got speaking, and at the time, his business had grown exponentially. It was putting a lot of pressure on him. And he questioned whether I'd be interested in actually moving to Melbourne from Sydney and taking a share of his business and heading up the business as the general manager and as a director. And so that, you could say, is where my journey from employment to business ownership transitioned. And then I took a share of this. This was Australia's largest automotive marketing agency. And so we did some fantastic things whilst I was there. However, within a year of me owning the company, my wife and I found out that we were actually expecting twins. And we thought, oh gosh, we need to figure out what we're doing, because we know we'd moved our home, and whilst we knew a few people in Melbourne, it wasn't quite our home. And so we made the decision to move back to Sydney, and we actually live just north of Sydney on the Central Coast in the beaches area. And we decided that we wanted our children, our twins, that we were expecting to be brought up on the coast. So I relinquished my share of that business, and then I had that, I guess, earth-shattering, defining moment where I realized I've gone, oh no, what am I going to do now? And sure enough, I said to my wife, I think I've got two choices here. I can either go back into the corporate world, and I really didn't want my soul to be destroyed any further. So and I do say that tongue in cheek, but I had a choice. It was either I go back into a high paying corporate job, or I try and do something myself, or I start something myself. And at the time, so to put into perspective, we moved back at the end of 2013. I effectively had no job. I had twins on the way. I was finishing my MBA at the time, and we had a mortgage. So we were renting a house out. So we moved back to the house we were in, and realized I had to start paying the mortgage again. And so I literally hustled, and that's when I decided to found my company, Menace Group, and which is a marketing, digital, and social media agency. And it started from scratch. I found whatever business I could, and mainly working with micro businesses at the time, so really small businesses, just helping them get traction on their primarily their digital and social marketing. And then within months of that occurring, and I actually said to my wife, I said, I made her a promise. I said, look, give me 6 months. That's all I need, please. If I don't make this business work within 6 months, I will get a part-time job stacking shelves at the supermarket. I don't care. I will do whatever I can to earn money. I really don't want to go back into employment, and I'll make something, I really, just give me 6 months. And thank God within 6 months, I managed to replace my income. Interestingly, I fostered a deal with the agency that I worked with in Melbourne, and ended up deciding to start up a Sydney office for that agency. So we ended up creating a Sydney office, and I actually started building my team organically. So it was all me. And then I've started employing people, actually taking care of all the digital and social media marketing for the agency that I owned in Melbourne. And that gave me a real strong leg up into, I guess, setting my foundations, and was able to allow me to grow that part of their business, because that part of the business was always something that they had struggled in growing. So that was sort of one of my first big contracts, and then the business, thank God, has grown exponentially ever since. So we're in our fourth year now. We have over 10 people, and quite a diverse client base. We have an international and national client base. So we've got clients. I probably have more clients outside of the state of New South Wales. So I've got more clients interstate around the country and internationally than I do actually in New South Wales. So it's quite interesting how that business has grown, and my reputation has generated a lot of that. And so that's sort of, I guess, the point before we get into the investing and the other entrepreneurial side of my journey. But that's the point. That's sort of to date where I've gone online, and where I went from full-time employment through to running my own business.
Wow, what a great background, Kevin. Why do you do what you do?
That's a great question. One of the things that I know is that one of the things that I learned in business is to stick to what you're good at. Is to lean in and double down on what you're good at. And even though I have many days where I wonder why I do what I do, and I question, gosh, why can't I just be a farmer, or why can't I just be a racing car driver or something like that? And I think you always think the grass is greener, but what I realized is that every psychometric test that I've had shows that I'm 50-50 left brain, right brain, half analytical, half creative, or half strategic, half creative. And so it just seems it comes naturally to me. Business is almost like common sense to me, or it is common sense to me. Even though I've worked really hard to study and understand a lot of the theoretical foundations, I guess in my gut, it's something that's very normal. Why I do it? I do it for two main reasons. The first is I've always felt that I that I've always had no problem being subservient and helping others. And I've helped others in a number of ways across many different facets of life. But the one thing I find and that I really get energy out of is working with ambitious and progressive business owners who genuinely are setting out to make a difference. And I'm usually the conduit, or I become the catalyst to help take them to the next level. Often a lot of businesses start out and they're technically competent, or they're really good at what they do, but they just don't know how to take it to market. And so I've quickly learned that that's one of the reasons why I love doing it, because I love helping businesses. I really enjoy making a difference in their lives, and just seeing the look on their faces and the weight lifted off their shoulder when they realize things aren't as complicated as it seems, and they see themselves getting the traction that they deserve as their business grows. The second reason I do what I do is also to survive, is to set a legacy for my family. And I guess so I'm the first person on both sides of my family, going back, numerous generations. I'm the first person to receive an MBA. I am one of the most educated within both sides of my family and all of my relatives. And one of the things that I wanted my children. I have twin girls, by the way, that are 3, and I have a son who's 8 months old now. So 3 children under 3, and every time I wake up and I see them, I know why I'm doing it. And I want them to learn. I want them to have the privilege that I didn't have of growing up in a family where we work hard for what we want. We create our own destiny, we create our own legacy, and we leave a mark. And I want to be able to set an example for them so that they learn and understand and have the honor of watching a business evolve, or multiple businesses evolve, I should say, especially in this era, and to learn from that, and to learn that whilst education's one small component of it, what is really important is getting stuff done and making things happen. So, not being a victim of politics or bureaucracy, but just leading the way and making things happen yourself, figuring out how to get what you want, basically. And that's the one thing that, and then the two things I should say that are my sort of Northern Star, or my why as to why I do what I do.
Wow. Let's put man aside. How did you know you are successful?
Money aside?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How did I know I was successful? I still find it very hard to call myself successful. And because I and this is going to sound cliche, but I think success is a journey, and it is not a destination. And so initially money was because of where I grew up and how I grew up. I remember hearing, I have a story that I tell people, where I had a friend who one day exposed how much his father earned. His father was a senior executive at a bank, and he told me the number. And I remember being 17, nearly 18 years old. We were having a barbecue, sitting out the back, and he told me that he found his dad's pay slip, and he told me how much he earned. And for some reason, that number got stuck in my head, and I was flabbergasted. I could not believe what that number was. And long story short, by the age of 25, I was earning that same amount of money. And so, but what I then realized very quickly when I started earning that money was that money is actually is one of the least important things in life. And the reason I say that is you do need it. I'm not saying, I have no aversion to earning money. It's pivotal in the lifestyle that we lead and to survive and what we want to do. However, what I what I quickly learned over my corporate years and then my agency, the agency that I owned and then the agency that I started, one of the things that happened personally and that I'm happy to share is whilst I was living a very good life and was earning money during that period, my wife and I were struggling to have children. And it took us 2 miscarriages and 2 rounds of IVF to be successful with their twins. And it's one of those things that I think really wake you up to the toll that when you have a focus on just the money or a focus on earning the lifestyle or earning money, which is what I originally did, it takes a toll on you because you start making decisions for the wrong reasons. And what I've been able to do since then, so, after the failed, after the miscarriages and after failing IVF and then eventually being successful, interestingly, that's where I believe I started to become successful because money, I came to the terms with the fact when I was starting my own business that I wasn't going to be earning a good income anymore because I was no longer employed. So there was no stable income. And so my focus completely went from being, doing a job, doing a task and earning the best money I can for the best, by providing the most value. The role reversed and I focused completely on providing the most value and being of service to others. And interestingly, by doing that, that's when the money came. But what I see as being successful now is the fact that I'm able to live a life where I'm a very active and present father. I built my entire business and all of my clients know that I built my business around my family. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was able to be there for the first 2 years of my daughter's lives, and bringing up twins. And anybody bringing up one child's hard enough. Bringing up twins. Anybody who's a parent of multiple children knows the challenges and how important it is for both parents, the husband and wife, to be actively involved because it's hard work. Every nappy change, every feeding session, every sleeping session, every burping session it's a tandem effort, and it's like a production line that takes hours. So I literally built and was there to support my wife raising my daughters for the first 2 years of their lives, present every single day, being there for every single moment, and to be able to fund that whilst building a business. To me, that is probably what I would define more as being successful. The fact that I've been able to have choices, and I now live a life where I make choices. And I've got the fortune of being able to choose the clients that I work with, being able to choose where I go, what I do, when I do it, and having that freedom and flexibility to be able to give, to be able to mentor, and that to me is success. And I think it's, as I said, I find it really hard to call myself successful because I see that I keep achieving things as I go, and for me, so long as I'm not going backwards, I feel that, and that I'm making a difference to society, that I'm having an impact. That I'm keeping people employed, I'm giving them opportunities to help fulfill their goals. I'm driving immense value for my customers, for my clients, and helping them get fantastic results. To me, that is a combination of what success entails. And I don't think I don't want it to stop. I see myself wanting to continue doing this for as long as I'm physically able to do that.
Wow. Okay. I know you have been in entrepreneur for a long time, since the age of 14. Can anyone be an entrepreneur, or are some people more cut out for it than others, like you?
That's a great question. And I have a very hard stance on this, is that in 2017, there is literally not a better time, nor is there better access to technology and resources. We have a better pool of resources and a better access to making things happen than we've ever had in a lifetime, in the world's entirety. And the opportunity is absolutely there for anybody to make something of it and to literally grab it by the horns and make something of it. One thing I will say is that I also see a lot of people that are romanced by the idea of being an entrepreneur. But one thing I tend to talk about is sitting in a cafe, sipping lattes and just coming up with ideas is not being an entrepreneur. What I see as being an entrepreneur and what I believe being an entrepreneur is solving meaningful problems, solving problems that are happening day after day, or where you see a process is not working, or a system just doesn't seem right, or when you experience when you experience something that just doesn't seem to line up, and you think to yourself, "Gosh, that could really be done better," and then you solve that. And you establish that there's a validity for that problem, or that problem's common, and you figure out a way of solving it, be it through building a service or building a tech platform or creating a different process or, doing something differently. I believe that's what entrepreneurship is. And I think that, yes, anybody can do it, because with the access to global resources, to technology, to skill sets, to employment, it's become so affordable and so possible. But what I would say is that unless you are solving the problem, unless you can take an issue that's occurring in a marketplace, or you're seeing a meaningful problem and you're solving it, if you're not doing that, you're better off just being employed. And you're better off just being comfortable in an employed situation or in a job, and there's nothing wrong with that. There is absolutely nothing wrong with working in a role. And sometimes I wish I was still employed. There are times where you just go, "Gosh, it would be so much easier." But in all seriousness, I think if you are going to go out and be an entrepreneur, I think, yes, anybody is capable of doing it, because there is so much support out there. However, unless you're going to do something meaningful, I would, or where you can feel you can make a difference to particular problems within a particular industry, then yeah, I would recommend against it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you have been an entrepreneur for many years. What is one thing that no one knows about you?
Oh, geez, that's a really good question, and I had a feeling you were going to ask it, because I know you tend to ask that question. But interestingly, I'm quite an open person, so there's probably not a lot that people don't know about me. I've always worn my heart on my sleeve. I think what most people don't see, or what they don't know, and it's probably more so relevant now than it's ever been, because a lot of people don't actually know. They see me now, and they see me as a multiple business owner, as being, as you coined it, quite successful, living in a beautiful part of the world, and I seem to have the package. What a lot of people don't know is they didn't know my backstory, or they didn't know where I've come from or what I've done to get to where I am. But more to the point, what they don't know is that I, just like everybody else, still wake up every day with that feeling in my stomach, wondering where the next opportunity is going to come from, or it's almost as if no matter how successful you are, and how or how wealthy you are, or whatever it might be, there's always that feeling. It's almost as if it's day one of your business every single day, and it's like, where's the next opportunity? Where's the next dollar going to come from? And there's almost, you could say, it's almost like a small element of fear, because there's not a lot that I'm scared of, or I'm not, I'm not really fearful of too much, but it is like that little worry, that little fear that I still face every day. And I think that's an important thing for people to know, is that despite the exterior, and despite the fact that you still, that things to most people are beyond, what I've achieved and how I live is exceeds, I guess, the norm, that still comes with a level of concern. And that there's always in the back of your head that little bit of, what if I fail? And what if what if this doesn't work? There's almost that little voice that's almost questioning if it's going to last or if it's going to work. And so and people don't see that. I think most people don't see that with me, because they see the confidence, they see the output, and they see the results. But just like I'm human, just like everyone else, and have those thoughts.
Wow, we thought you are different. Okay. Okay. What is one thing that has contributed to your success? Because you've been successful since day one, since the age of 14. So what is the secret?
Okay. There's a couple of things to this. And the first is, I was very fortunate that I had a very good parental foundation. So growing up in a strict Roman Catholic Maltese family, my parents are of Maltese origin, what I was given, and whilst they weren't able to give me money or wealth or the nice things that I think people wanted, what they did give me was a very strong morals, values, and a very good foundation, work ethic, of valuing learning and valuing hard work. And to me, that was the greatest gift that they could have given me, other than their sacrifice, which learning the lesson of sacrifice was also unbelievably valuable, because that, they're still renting their property to this day. They're still renting the same house that we lived in, they've lived in for over 20 years, because they wanted to give us a good education. That's the first bit. But not everybody has that ability. Not everybody has the fortune of having wonderful parents, amazing parents that can give them that foundation. So if I then had to look out of that, what I do believe contributed to the success, and the secret, there's a couple of things. The first is being humble enough to listen and to be willing to learn. Just being an absolute sponge. Now, we all go through times in life where we think we know it all. I've been guilty of that, and it's a big part of growth. But I was very fortunate to have some good teachers and some good mentors over the year who I gave time to, who gave me time, more to the point, I should say, that I listened to and I welcomed with open arms, and that taught me a lot, because these were people that were speaking with wisdom, with experience, people who had made mistakes. And when you can listen to people that have made mistakes and learn from their mistakes and avoid making some of those mistakes yourselves, it makes a huge difference. The second part is that being of service to others is being happy to be subservient. I see, and I don't know if this is, I don't know whether this is common around the world, but I know definitely in Australia, it seems a lot of people find it really hard to be subservient and to be of service to others. It's like they really, they find it difficult to want to help others. Most people are worried about themselves and about how they can help themselves. And I think when you reverse that and your focus first and foremost becomes, well, how can I deliver value and how can I be of service to you or to others or to a community? Everything changes. The whole paradigm, the whole dynamic changes. The third thing is that ability to work, especially I was never scared of work, and I would work to the point, I would work 100-hour weeks without even a complaint, without even an ounce of concern. Because I knew, especially while I was younger and especially while and this is even when I had the children in the early age, in their early days. What I knew was that if I put in the right effort and I worked smarter, not harder, and I built my systems and processes around that, that would pay off. But I knew that I needed that mass effort at the beginning to give me the right platform to then be able to back off a bit. And now I work very normal hours. And I actually recommend for a lot of people, it's important to get your rest. It's important to eat well and to exercise. But being able to do the hard yards and put that hard effort in for a period of time, I call them sprints. And those sprints can be, 6 weeks at a time, or 12 weeks at a time, where you go all in and you just make things happen. Gary Vaynerchuk talks a lot about, if you're not happy with your life or your circumstance, don't go home and watch the Super Bowl, or don't go home and watch House of Cards. Go back to work. Come home, pat the dog, kiss the wife, say hello to the children, eat your dinner, and then go back to work. And I'm a big believer of that. If you are unhappy, or what I believe has been a big contributor to my success, is that if I wasn't happy with something, I changed it. And I did change it dramatically. Over the years, I made some very big decisions with who I associated with. I cut friends off that were not adding value to my life, that I couldn't have good conversations with. And I aligned myself and started developing more meaningful relationships with people that did provide value. I had no hesitation in learning. So I've always studied and worked my entire life. So I guess that hard work, that work ethic, and understanding that if Albert Einstein's definition of insanity is if you want to do the same thing, and if you do the same thing over and expect a different result, you need to do things differently if you want to get different results. And that was, I guess, to me, that's probably the final point of what what my secrets were to success. And they're not mind blowing. There was no hack. It was just focus, work, good moral foundations, being of service to others, and not being scared of putting in the effort up front so that I can reap the benefits later.
Wow. What is the most valuable thing your mentors has told you?
That's unbelievably meaningful to me, that question, because I've had the good fortune of having a few mentors. One of them is no longer with us, and he was my engineering teacher back in school. His name was Brian Scrimger, and one of the things he used to say, if I knew half as much now this gentleman, I should preface this as saying he was at the time, he would have been in his late 60s, early 70s, and he used to say, if I knew half as much now as I thought I knew back then, I'd be a very successful man. And to me, those words just ring and ring and ring in my head. Whenever I think I know it all or I know enough, those words come back into my head, and I realize I don't know anything. I don't know enough. And it's a really good way of drawing me back down to earth and telling me that I have so much to learn, and it doesn't matter where I am in my life or how much I have learned, there's always more to learn. And about being humble enough to learn more and to never be scared of learning more. And that to me is probably they are the most valuable words that any of my mentors have ever told me.
Okay, let's talk about your business. Let's first talk about your book. Why did you call it I Just Want It to Work? Because when people hear the word, when I see the title, I just want it to work, I'm like, oh no. And now I'm going to put in more effort to work. I just want a book which I can read and gives me all the miracles, and that's it. I'm off.
Well, the one thing I will say to all the clan listening, there are no miracle cures, there are no magic potions, and there is definitely not a silver bullet that is going to solve all of your business problems, or all of in particular, your marketing problems. And that is one thing that I love to get across. And it's actually the cause of the frustration. So I titled my book, I Just Want It to Work, A Guide to Understanding Digital Marketing and Social Media for Frustrated Business Owners, Managers, and Marketers. And so I wrote this book because I realized as an agency owner over the last 4 years that I can only impact so many businesses. I have a capacity in my company and I can only service so many companies. So I thought I really need to help make a difference in the general business world and for business owners, managers who are responsible for marketing, and even marketers. There's a lot of marketers out there who still struggle with this part of the marketing process. And I thought, well, if I can touch them in some small way, if I can give them some kind of foundation that helps formulate better conversations or allows them to make better decisions when it comes to those business owners either employing marketing resources internally or engaging a third-party agency, just like myself, those conversations will become a lot more productive and a lot more valuable. And what I wanted to do was help eliminate the frustration by helping them understand. And so that's why my title is literally a reference of that frustration. Is business owners try a lot of different things, none of them get the results, or they don't feel that the strategy works or the tactics work. And that's where they sit down with their hands in their head and they go, I just want it to work. So that was why I wrote the book, was to help those business owners make educated and informed decisions when it comes to their marketing, digital and social media.
Okay. Let's say I've ordered your book, I've got it now, so I want it just to work. How am I going to just read it so that I can get it all I can in one day and apply it?
Absolutely. So my expectation would be at the end of the book, if you have gone through every chapter, there's a note section and there's an activity at the back of every single chapter. The book is designed for you to think critically based on the methodology that I've put together and the process that I've put together, allows you, without knowing how to do things, it allows you to think critically about what you need to do. And what I anticipate is that by the end of it, it will set the right foundation for you to go, right, okay, I need to, if I'm going to employ a third-party agency, this is the conversation that I need to have with them. I need to talk about my audience. I need to talk about strategy first and foremost. Then, or I should say, if they decide to do it themselves or engage their own resources or employ somebody to do the work, when they're having that conversation with a potential employee or even outsourced resources, they might say, okay, I need to start here. Here's my strategy. Here is my audience. Then how does my audience behave? And then I would develop my tactics to suit that strategy, and being able to clearly define the right objectives, the right methods, and the right process to develop a sound digital marketing and social media strategy.
Wow. Where do I find this book, or if we want to get hands of it?
So if the clan would like to head over to this URL, it's book, Kevin Spiteri, which is spelled KevinSpiteri.com.au, and register on that landing page. You'll get some really valuable information, some great content, and a number of links to where the book can either be purchased from, and it's both on online ebooks as well as the physical hard copy, which you can also order.
Wow. Okay. Let's talk about your agents. All right. What are the biggest mistakes business make with their digital marketing and social media?
Yes. There's one big mistake, and I touched on it a second ago. The biggest mistake that businesses make today is they jump straight to tactics. The reason I say that is because everybody seems to have an opinion on how a business should get online or should market themselves these days. And often what a lot of business owners struggle with, or they feel overwhelmed by, is that they feel that they need to be everywhere and on everything. I'm going to say something a little controversial here. Not every business actually needs a website. Not every business needs to be on Facebook. Not every business needs to do email marketing. That is the number one mistake people make, is they go straight to the tactic. They say, okay, I need to be on Facebook, or I need a website, or I need to rank number one on Google. I need to be on the first page of Google. A great anecdote that I like to share with a lot of people, and I talk about this in my book, is I had a call, and a great example of why jumping to tactics is dangerous and is the number one mistake that businesses make. So I had actually a potential client call me up, and he said, "G'day, Kevin, I've been recommended to you." Now, this gentleman ran a business that specialized in facilities management, or strategic asset facility management. And he said to me, "Kevin, I need to be on page 1 of Google because I've tried to type it in and I just can't find myself. I'm on page 14. I said, "Okay, why do you need to be on page 1 of Google?" And you could imagine the response. "Well, what are you talking about? Everyone needs to be on page 1 of Google." And I said, "Well, hang on a second." I said, let's take a step back here. I said, "Tell me a bit about your customer. Who is your perfect customer? If your perfect customer was sitting in front of you now, what would they look like? Who are they? What are they? How do they behave? What do they read? Let's talk through that." And he said, "Well, okay, most of the people I deal with, they're typically men. It's a male-dominated industry. They're typically in their early 50s. They're experienced business people, and they're responsible for multi-million-dollar asset portfolios for things such as universities or schools, universities, building infrastructure, so big stratas, big apartment blocks. So these are facilities managers. They're in their 50s. They are very time poor. They have everybody pulling them from every angle. And I said, what do they do? Oh, well, they might read the financial review, but they don't consume a lot of content. These are busy guys." And I said, "Well, how do they go about finding someone like you who effectively this business provides a service to help manage those facilities?" So they have a program that basically makes these guys' jobs a lot easier. And he said, "Oh, well, typically the way we get the business is we have to go to tender. Most of these, because they're multi-million-dollar portfolios, they put out tenders and they go to tender, and we have to respond to those tenders with our solution. And then if we're selected, we would go through a negotiation process." I said, "Okay, so let's stop right there. So what you're telling me is that your customers don't go on Google and type in facilities management and find a program or a solution to help make their lives easier?" And he said, "No, they don't." I said, "So why do you need to be on page 1 of Google?" "Oh, okay, I guess I don't." I said, "Okay, let me go one step further for you here. Do you know some of these people? Do you know who they are? Are they, like, how do you typically meet them? How would you find out who these people are?" He said, "Well, the best way I find is I go to trade shows, or I go to networking events, and I get to know who these facility managers are." I said, "So, you've got a list of people that you would like to talk to?" He said, "Yes, I do, but, it's really hard to get in the door with them." He said, "Because they're so busy, and, you try and give them a call and they don't return your call, and they don't answer emails because, I'm trying to sell something to them." I said, "Okay." I said, "That's cool." I said, "I want you to try one thing. And this is all I want you to do." I said, "I want you to write a handwritten letter introducing yourself, saying that you'd love to take 20 minutes of their time to have a quick cup of coffee and talk about how you can reduce their portfolio exposure or help manage their assets with a couple of key metrics that we established. I said, that's all I want you to do, just a handwritten note asking for 20 minutes of their time with your phone number at the bottom and to give them a call. Long story short, the first letter that he put out to somebody that was on his target list, he got a call back within minutes of them receiving that letter. The first comment was, wow, nobody writes handwritten letters these days. Thanks very much for taking the time out to do that. I'd love to come in and have a chat with you. And the outcome was he got to tender for a $250,000 contract.
Wow.
That was one strategy that I gave him that cost him nothing in a 20-minute phone call or 30-minute phone call with me, just taking the time to understand who the customer was, how they behaved, and what they really needed and wanted, and then working back from that point to coming up with the best strategy and then the tactic to get in front of them. And in this instance, I could have easily said, yeah, no problem. Let's do search engine optimization and charge a few $1,000s a month, or let's do Google AdWords, or let's do Facebook. But that is none of those strategies would have made a difference to his business. Sure, they would have given him some brand awareness. Maybe they would have driven some traffic. But the core objective based on the core behaviors of his target audience was to find out how to get their attention in a way that they weren't used to, and in a way that would resonate with them. And obviously being in their 50s, they grew up in a time, and even me in my mid 30s, I grew up writing letters. I didn't have a computer till I was 18 or 19. I did my year 12 high school certificate on a typewriter. So that nostalgia, that form of communication, when somebody takes the time to write a letter by hand these days, it gets cut through. It gets a result, and in this particular instance, that's why, to all the clan listeners out there, why you don't jump to tactics.
Wow. Okay, can we squeeze in these quick questions? What are some things a corporate should consider before outsourcing to an individual or an agent to do their digital marketing and social media? And how can they know what to expect from these services? Just quick, brief things, please.
Absolutely. So corporates need to, any agency that they speak to or any outsourced resource that they're looking to engage, the first thing that company needs to do is to put a proposal forward to run a strategy with you, first and foremost, to intimately understand your audience, your business, and your customers and your objectives, and set those objectives collectively before they put a proposal forward for any tactical services. That is the number one requirement of a corporate. Any good agency should be charging you, and you should be investing in the strategy first before you jump to tactics.
Wow. Okay. So, Clan, there will be more from Kevin in a moment. If you are finding Kevin's journey interesting and you are ready to hear more, come and listen to the version of interview at onlinesuccessjourney.com. If you are on Online Success Journey already, click on part 2 of Kevin's journey and you'll get lots of more information to help you with your online business, how to start your business and find more clients. And don't forget, you can also access all other Online Success Journey interview podcasts on the site as well. That's a wrap, Clan. Remember, success is a journey. Patience and Kevin.
This is not the end of the journey. We hope you've enjoyed listening to part 1 and want to be sure you know there is a second part to this and every journey podcast at onlinesuccessjourney.com, filled with even more success tips, uplifting stories, and even a bit of fun. There are dozens of episodes only available to the members of the Online Success Journey clan. Check out the website and click on Join the Clan for more information. Patience would like to thank you for listening to this podcast, and she has a free audio gift for you at her website. Go to onlinesuccessjourney.com for instant access to this gift. Of course, you know that listening to the journeys of others helps each of us chart our own path. So make sure you're subscribed to be notified as each new interview is posted. There are so many ways to stay connected to the online success journey and to listen in. And if you're enjoying the podcast, we appreciate your help in telling others. One of the best ways to share the benefit you get is to rate and review it at Stitcher and other sites by clicking the stars or completing the ratings form, by clicking thumbs up and leaving a comment on YouTube, or liking and sharing the podcast on social media. To review the podcast within iTunes, simply open iTunes to the podcast, click on Ratings and Reviews, then write a review. On behalf of Patience, and until next time, thanks once more for listening. It is our hope that this podcast will guide you on your own online success journey.